why we worship the cow. And we had discussed many of the aspects of the cow that are nurturing and life-giving, whether it's the milk, whether it's the urine, whether it's the cow dung. And we had concluded by talking about the nature of the cow that enables her to actually be in peace in the midst of chaos on the roads, in the midst of all of the honking and competition and viciousness and fighting and aggression that there are on the roads. Whereas for most of us, in order to be in peace, we want everybody around us to be really calm and really nice, and don't do this because it disturbs my peace. And I had said that one of the reasons that the cow serves as such a wonderful symbol is that she's really attained that inner peace. So his question was a follow-up from that, but which we didn't have time for last night, of how to attain that. There's a couple of different aspects of it, but the most important really is to look at ourselves and say, well, what destroys our inner peace? What is it that makes us restless and anxious and angry? And my favorite joke about this is a joke about a man who goes to the doctor, and he says to the doctor, "Doctor, everything hurts me. When I touch my legs, they hurt. When I touch my back, it hurts. When I touch my stomach, it hurts." And so the doctor's very confused, because typically people come with one complaint, a headache or a backache or a knee ache. But this man says everything hurts. And so the doctor runs every scan, every test. And at the end, he calls the man in and he says, "Well, I have good news and bad news. The good news is there's nothing wrong with your legs, your knees, your back, your stomach. But the bad news is your finger's broken. And since your finger's broken, whatever you touch, it hurts." But it doesn't hurt because there's some problem in the body. It hurts because the finger is broken. And it's all just this misattribution that it's actually my knees that are aching, or my stomach that's aching, or my back that's aching. And I tell this joke here because that's the way that so many of us are living. We're not in peace. Our lives hurt. And we are blaming the things around us, like the man blamed his knees and his back and his stomach. We're blaming the world, whether it's our parents, whether it's our children, whether it's our spouses or a lack of a spouse, whether it's our jobs or lack of a job, it's our employers, our employees, or just basic justice in the universe. And for this man, the key was getting his finger bones reset. And once that bone got reset, miraculously, the rest of his body was going to stop hurting. It didn't mean that he would never injure his knee, or that he would never eat something and have a bad stomach or hurt his back. But touching a stomach that hurts with a finger that's not broken hurts a lot less than touching a stomach in pain with a finger that is broken. And that's really the message for our lives, is it's not that being connected, because with the man it was a connection in the bone. With us, it's an inner connection. It's a connection to the divine. And it's not that having that divine spiritual connection suddenly is like a magic wand that everybody does whatever we want them to, and everybody treats us the way we think they should, and there's no traffic on the freeway, and we never miss a flight, and all of our employers or employees do what we want them to do. It's not like that. This man, for sure, in his life was going to have pain in his stomach or pain in his back. But it wasn't going to cause him the level of pain that it caused him when he touched it with a broken finger. And that's the issue in our lives, is that we will have projects that fail, we'll have issues in our relationship, we'll get stuck in traffic, we'll miss flights, interest rates and mortgage rates will go in the opposite direction of where we want them to go. But because that connection is there, we won't find ourselves in pain, suffering, due to that which happens in the world around us. And that's really the key to this inner peace, is to say, well, what is it that's stealing my peace? And although we think it's the world around us, it's really the lack of that inner connection. And the way that we can test that is if you imagine, for example, that you are stuck at an airport and your flight's been canceled, or you're stuck on a train and the train has broken down and it's going to be 12 hours late and you don't have any food. All of these situations that tend to cause a lot of anxiety for us, or we've lost our job. If you imagine that you're sitting in that situation alone, it's very, very stress-inducing. It steals our peace. It steals our joy. It steals our happiness. But if you imagine just a slight shift in the scenario, that rather than being stuck on that broken down train without anything to eat, and the fact that you're going to miss the connection and you're going to miss an appointment and you're going to miss an event, rather than that, you're stuck on the train with someone you've just fallen in love with. Now, you've got all these hours that the universe has just given you. Your mobile battery's dead, nobody's around. Now you've got all these new, wonderful, unanticipated hours to spend staring into each other's eyes, making jokes, being whatever it is. Just being together, holding hands. Simply the presence of who you're with turns an experience that otherwise is hell into something that not only isn't hell, but actually could be sort of enjoyable and certainly is bearable. And that's the key to life. Can we develop a connection, a relationship with that divine? And it doesn't matter what religion you are, what culture you come from. It doesn't matter what the divine means to you. But a connection to something that's always with us. That's nurturing and nourishing and holding and loving. Not judging. That's carrying us. And if we have that relationship, then wherever we are, whatever happens, it's the equivalent of being there with someone you've just fallen in love with, rather than being there alone. And the last piece that I would give about this is, Pujya Swamiji always says, expectation is the mother of frustration, and acceptance is the mother of peace and joy. And on a very basic level, probably that which steals our peace the most is our expectations. Expectations of how other people should be, how the world should be, how things should happen, how people should talk to us, where we should reach. And as anyone who's ever tried to change another person knows, it doesn't work. And that's even when it's someone who's close enough to you that you actually had the courage to even conceive of the fact that you might change them. I mean, we all are aware of the fact that we can't change the weather, that we can't change what people are doing in some other country, that aside from voting differently, we can't really change too much what people sitting in Parliament House or Washington, D.C. are doing. And so if we carry an expectation of how things are supposed to be, and they're not like that, we lose our peace. And so giving up that expectation is one of the most important and fundamental aspects of staying in peace. And just to clarify, though, that doesn't mean becoming apathetic. It doesn't mean that we don't care. It doesn't mean that we don't care what our elected officials do. It doesn't mean that we don't care what the weather is. We've planned, a beautiful picnic on Sunday afternoon. It's our child's birthday. We've invited all of her friends. They're all going to have, a wonderful picnic. And it rains. Well, obviously we cared. We had hoped it would be a sunny day. We had planned it based on the fact that it was supposed to be a sunny day. But we don't let that rain ruin it. We're able to enjoy the day, the moment, her birthday, the celebration, her life, her friends, without sitting in the grass. And in the same way, yeah, we care what those around us do. We care what happens in our world. But we're not attached to the sense of it has to be what my mind is. Because in many cases, actually something much better ends up happening than what we possibly could have anticipated. We've all probably had the experience of thinking that something was a great disaster, only to find out that actually, miraculously, the universe had a plan that was so much better than our plan, and thank God this other thing failed, or thank God we missed that plane, or thank God we didn't get that job. Because now, the whole universe has opened up for us. So we live and we work with sincerity and integrity and purpose and hope, but without an expectation. With the awareness of the fact that the fruit, as we're told by Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, the fruit of all of our actions isn't in our hands. The action's in our hands, but the fruit isn't. So if we can relinquish those expectations, particularly of other people, that's probably the fastest way to finding the peace. And going back quickly to the cow, well, chances are she doesn't have a lot of expectations. As long as she's got something in her tummy, something to drink, that seems to be about what her expectations are. And an expectation that the cars aren't going to hit her. With such faith, that's my last point about this. It's such faith. She's in a position where I would have thought the cows would hit her. I mean, it's almost impossible to imagine that they won't. But she knows they're not going to hit her. Whereas in our lives, we've got everything stacked in our favor. We've been given all the best opportunities. Health, education, the world at our fingertips. And yet we don't have that faith that we're going to be okay, that we're going to be cared for. And that goes back to that connection, because of course if we're not connected to the divine, then there's nothing in which to have faith. So whether the cow calls it God or calls it something else or doesn't call it anything at all, but just knows that it's there, that's probably what enables her to sit so peacefully in the midst of traffic that she knows isn't going to impact her.